I always thought Christmas was supposed to be about love, warmth, and family. But on December 25th, I got a brutal reminder. It's also the season for betrayal. My name is Madeline Carter, and this past Christmas, my entire family gathered in our childhood home in Scottsdale. The lights sparkled, the tree was perfect, and everyone was there, except me. No invitation. Not even a text. I only found out because my cousin posted a photo on Facebook. Carter family Christmas? So blessed. And there they were. My parents, my uncles, even Brandon, my younger brother who hasn't held a job longer than a month. I stared at the screen in disbelief. I hadn't done anything wrong, had I? The next morning, as I was still reeling, I checked my mailbox. A thick envelope, my parents' address on the corner. Inside, an invoice from BMW of Phoenix for $52,000 for Brandon's new 5 Series, and next to the buyer's name, Brandon Carter, was mine. As the co-signer, my heart stopped. There was no call, no warning, no consent, nothing. Just my forged signature and a payment schedule that started in 6 days. That's when it hit me. This wasn't just a bad Christmas. This was the moment my family decided I was no longer a person. They saw me as a bank. So if you've ever been overlooked, used, or betrayed by the people who should love you most, this story is for you. Drop a comment if you've been the strong one for too long. Hit that like button if you've ever had to stand up for yourself, even when it hurt. And subscribe, because what I did next changed everything. Looking back, I should have seen this coming. In the Carter household, value was always measured in appearances, and I never quite fit the mold. My parents, Gregory and Elaine Carter, ran the kind of household that looked flawless from the outside. My father managed a chain of car dealerships, and my mother threw charity luncheons like they were state affairs. They wanted perfect smiles, Ivy League resumes, designer outfits. And they got that. For Brandon. He was the miracle child, born 5 years after me. Blonde hair, blue eyes, quarterback charm. My parents bragged about him before he could walk. I, on the other hand, was the quiet one. Glasses, books, math competitions. I wasn't flashy, but I was focused. I earned a full scholarship to Arizona State. I paid my own way through grad school. By 28, I was a senior financial controller for a tech firm in Phoenix. Stable, responsible, boring. And somehow, boring wasn't enough. Growing up, Brandon got whatever he wanted: a dirt bike at 10, a sports car at 16, and a gap year. That turned into 2 years of partying across Europe. Me, I got lectures about budgeting and gratitude. When I asked for new shoes, Mom said I didn't smile enough to deserve them. Even after Brandon got arrested for DUI twice, my parents still bailed him out. Literally and figuratively. He's just finding his way, they said. Be patient. Be supportive. Supportive. I paid off his $8,000 credit card debt when he swore he'd clean up. 6 months later, he showed up to my apartment unannounced, needing a small loan for car repairs. I gave it to him. I always did. I thought it was love. I thought it was what family does. But now, with that invoice in my hands, I saw the truth. My family never loved me for who I was. They loved what I could provide. I was the safety net, the backup plan, the wallet. What's worse, I had let them. I ignored the gut feelings, the times I wasn't invited to birthday dinners because Brandon needed space. The moments when my achievements were brushed aside because struggling, and we have to focus on him. And still, I kept giving, hoping one day they'd see me, but they never would, because in the Carter family, love wasn't unconditional. It came with an asterisk, and I was finally ready to stop chasing it. 10 years. That's how long I'd been bailing out my family, without ever using the word. It started small, the way all emotional debts do. My dad needed a quick loan to cover payroll at one of his dealerships. Just $12,000, sweetheart. I'll pay you back by Friday. He never did. But he thanked me with a smile that made me feel noticed. Then Mom asked if I could cover her credit card balance. Just this once. So her FICO score wouldn't take a hit. It was for a charity gala she organized, she said. Besides, you make more than your father, and I combined, Maddie. You're so blessed. Blessed. That was their favorite word. It was code for you owe us. When Brandon flunked out of college for the 3rd time, it was my account they used to order him a laptop, textbooks, and dorm essentials for a new semester he didn't even attend. I remember calling Mom in tears, saying I couldn't afford more. She sighed and said, "I thought you loved your brother. You've always been so practical. I figured you'd understand. Practical, reliable, strong. These weren't compliments. They were assignments. At Christmas, I was the one who brought the nice wine. At Thanksgiving, I made the pies and cleaned up after everyone left. Brandon always showed up late, usually hungover, but somehow he was the star. He's the life of the party," they'd say. One year, I got him a job interview at my company. He never showed. He told my parents I didn't give him the right time. They believed him. I kept my mouth shut. When Mom needed a new air conditioning unit during an Arizona heat wave, I put it on my credit card. When Dad's prized Corvette broke down, he asked me to float the repair. And every time I said yes, I thought, maybe now they'll see me. Maybe this will be enough. But enough never came. 3 years ago, Brandon got arrested for his 3rd DUI. The judge was done being lenient. He was facing real time. I paid for the lawyer. He got probation. No one thanked me. A month later, he totaled the car I helped fix. Still, I didn't stop, because if I did, who was I? The cold one? The selfish one? The one who left her family behind. That's the role they feared most. Not because they'd lose me emotionally, but because they'd lose their financial cushion. I became the emergency contact, the ATM, the fixer. And the truth, I let it happen, because I didn't want to be alone. It's embarrassing to admit that. I had friends, colleagues, even casual relationships, but deep down, I still craved that parental nod of approval. That sibling bond people talk about, the kind that comes with inside jokes and late night calls and showing up, really showing up, for each other. Instead, I got invoices. Instead, I got silence when I needed support, and demands when I was too drained to give. Like the time I had surgery for appendicitis and my parents couldn't visit, because they were on a cruise with Brandon, or when I got promoted and invited them to the ceremony and they never RSVP'd. "We assumed you'd be too busy," Mom later said. But when Brandon needed rent money, after crashing with a girl who kicked him out, I got 4 phone calls and a Venmo request in one day. I wish I could say the $52 in invoice shocked me, but honestly, it felt like the logical next step. It was audacious, yes, but it was also consistent. The signature forged on that document wasn't just mine. It was a symbol of everything I had allowed. They didn't just steal my name, they stole my silence. And finally, I was done being silent. I sat on my living room floor, surrounded by legal documents I never signed. My hands trembled as I read them again, hoping I'd missed something, that this was just a misunderstanding. But there it was in black ink. My full name, Madeline Carter, co-signed on a $52 in BMW loan. And that signature, it looked eerily close to mine. Close enough to fool a loan officer, but not me, Brandon. It had to be him. He'd forged my signature. Or worse, my parents had helped him do it. I called my mom first. She answered on the second ring, chipper as ever. "Maddie, how are you?" "Sweet pea. I didn't bother with pleasantries. Did you sign a car loan in my name?" A pause. Then, well, technically, you didn't have to sign. We handled it. "Mum, that's illegal. That's fraud." "Oh, don't be dramatic. Brandon just needed a reliable car for his new job interviews." What job interviews?" "He's been unemployed for months." "Exactly why he needs to look the part. A BMW makes a good impression, honey. You should understand that, with your line of work." "My line of work?" I felt my blood boil. I hung up and called Brandon, straight to voicemail. So I texted, "You forged my signature on a car loan. That's a felony. Fix this now." He replied 3 minutes later, "Whoa, relax. Dad said it was cool. You're fine. I'll start payments in Feb. Chill." That one word snapped something inside me. That evening, I reviewed my financial accounts. And that's when I saw it. A failed login attempt on my emergency savings account. The one I'd had since college. The bank had flagged it as suspicious and frozen it. The access came from my old laptop. The same one I'd given my parents last year when I upgraded. I felt physically ill. This wasn't an accident. It wasn't a lapse in judgment. This was calculated. They didn't just want to use my credit. They wanted access to my cash. I couldn't sleep that night. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, hearing my dad's voice in my head. "Family helps family." Over and over again. But what kind of family steals from you while calling it love? By morning, I knew what I had to do. I called a lawyer. Natalie Hoffman was calm, sharp, and didn't blink once when I explained everything. She looked over the documents and immediately said, "This is textbook fraud. So what are my options?" I asked. "You can file a police report. That will trigger an investigation. You can also report it to the bank and dealership. The sooner the better. And if I do nothing, you'll be liable for 52 $, in debt you never agreed to. Plus, if your name is on the loan and Brandon misses payments, which it sounds like he will, it'll wreck your credit." It was no longer a question of, should I? It was, how fast can I fix this? Still, part of me hesitated. This was my family. If I reported them, the fallout would be nuclear. But Natalie said something that stuck with me. Ask yourself this. If a friend told you this exact story, what would you tell her to do? The answer was obvious. I left her office that day with a plan. But of course, word traveled fast. That evening, I got a barrage of texts. First from Brandon. "What the hell, Madeline? You're seriously doing this? You're gonna ruin my life over a signature." Then my father. "You've always been ungrateful. After all we've done for you. This is how you repay us." And finally, my mom. "You're breaking this family apart. Brandon is devastated. We're your parents. We did what we thought was best. No apologies, no remorse, just guilt. Manipulation." I blocked them all. Then, I called the bank and the dealership. I filed formal fraud complaints and handed over the forged documents. A few days later, the dealership confirmed it. They'd be removing my name from the loan and proceeding with repossession. Brandon would lose the car. My mother left me a voicemail crying. "You humiliated your brother. He had to walk home from the mall. Do you even care?" And the truth, I did care. Just not in the way they wanted. I cared about reclaiming my identity, my autonomy, my peace. The old me would have cracked under the pressure. I would have caved, but not this time. I wasn't their victim anymore. When the dealership confirmed the fraud and began the repossession process, I braced myself for war. I knew my family wouldn't go quietly. What I didn't expect was how far they'd go to try and destroy me. Within 48 hours, Brandon launched a full-blown PR campaign on social media. He posted a sob story video on TikTok, tears streaming, voice shaking, about how his cold-hearted sister had the car gifted to him by their parents, repossessed. The comment section exploded with sympathy. "You deserve better. Some people just don't understand family. Your sister sounds jealous." I didn't respond. I couldn't. My lawyer had advised total silence while the bank and dealership finalized the case. But my family? They went full offense. My dad called my job. Yes, my actual workplace. And asked to speak to my boss. He claimed he was worried about my mental health, that I was acting erratically and struggling with stress. Luckily, my boss, Rachel, knew better. She called me that afternoon and said, "Madeline, is everything okay at home?" I broke down. For the first time, I told someone the full story. Rachel listened, then said something I'll never forget. "You don't have to protect people who hurt you. Take the time you need. We've got your back." That one act of kindness gave me the strength to do the next hard thing: lock down my finances entirely. I moved all my savings to new banks. I froze my credit. I got a new phone number. Every digital doorway my family could exploit, I slammed shut. Then came the legal threats. My mother sent an email. "If you don't drop this now, we'll expose your emotional instability to your employer, friends, everyone. We are your family. We know everything." It felt like blackmail because it was. But I didn't flinch. Instead, I forwarded it straight to Natalie. She reviewed everything, emails, texts, voicemails, and said, "This is textbook coercion. It only helps your case." I hadn't even filed criminal charges yet, but just the possibility that I might had them spinning. Then I got a call from my Aunt Irene. She'd always been the black sheep, someone who distanced herself from the family years ago. She said, "I heard about the car. I'm proud of you. They did the same thing to me once. Tried to take out a second mortgage using my name." And my jaw dropped. "You're not the problem, Madeline," she continued. "You're just the first one who fought back." Her words settled into my chest like armor. Later that week, Brandon messaged from a different number. He was furious. "You think you're better than us? You're a lonely, stuck-up bisex who'll die alone in her little condo. I saved the message and blocked him again. Because here's the thing, when you set boundaries, the people who benefited from your silence will always scream the loudest. But I wasn't scared anymore. The bank completed their investigation and officially removed my name from the car loan. The BMW was no longer my burden. Brandon would either have to pay up or walk. As for the dealership, they moved fast. Within days, the car was repossessed, right in front of Brandon's friends outside a hookah lounge. I didn't celebrate. I didn't cheer. I just exhaled. That night, my mother left me one final voicemail. You've shamed this family. Don't bother coming to your father's funeral one day. I deleted it. Not out of anger. Out of peace. Because I finally understood that choosing myself wasn't betrayal. It was survival. The repossession should have been the end of it. But in my family, humiliation doesn't result in reflection. It ignites retaliation. After Brandon's car was towed in front of a dozen of his friends, he went into overdrive. The next day, he posted a 10-minute video on Instagram titled, "How My Sister Betrayed Me." He painted himself as a struggling young man trying to turn his life around. I just needed a chance, he sniffled. But she took everything from me, even my dignity. He never mentioned the fraud. He never mentioned the forgery. Just pain and a villain, me. It went viral in our small town circles. Hundreds of comments flooded in. She's heartless. Family should stick together. Shame on her. Then came the text messages. From cousins I hadn't spoken to in years. Just wanted to say, you've really disappointed all of us. Uncle Greg is crushed. How could you do this? You used to be the good one. The thing is, I was the good one. But being good in my family meant obedient. It meant silent. It meant sacrificial. Once I broke the pattern, I became the enemy. My parents doubled down. They sent an email blast to our extended family. It included photos of Brandon in the car with a caption, "He had hope." Then she took it away. They spun a new story, that I had agreed to help Brandon, but later changed my mind out of spite. That I was struggling with mental health issues and lashing out during the holidays. My mother even called my college best friend, Chelsea, who hadn't been in touch with the family for years. "She's in trouble," Mom whispered. "We're just trying to protect her from herself." Chelsea called me right away, furious. "Your mother just tried to recruit me into some kind of intervention," she said. "She's manipulating everyone she can." They weren't just angry, I realized. They were scared. Because if I stood my ground, their power was gone. They couldn't guilt me. They couldn't shame me. They couldn't buy me. And that's when they tried to break me. A week after the car was repossessed, I received a letter, mailed the old-fashioned way, from a law firm representing my parents. They threatened to sue me for emotional damages and public humiliation, citing the car repossession as an attack on family reputation. It was absurd, but still it worked. For a moment, I panicked. Was I really the bad guy? Was I destroying my own family? I brought the letter to Natalie. She flipped through the pages, smirking slightly. "Bluff," she said. "They want you scared." "Don't be. But what if they follow through? Let them. Their story doesn't hold up under legal scrutiny. And you have documentation of everything." She was right. I had emails, texts, the forged loan paperwork, the bank's fraud report, so I stood firm. The next blow came through a different angle: my professional life. My father, Greg, contacted 2 clients at my firm, people he knew through business circles, and told them I was unstable and financially manipulative. One client mentioned it casually during a meeting. "I heard from your dad you've been having a rough time. Everything all right?" I smiled politely and changed the subject, but inside, I burned. My family wasn't just trying to shame me. They were trying to sabotage me, so I went proactive. I called Rachel, my boss, and scheduled a meeting. I laid it all out, every ugly detail. Rachel listened, stone-faced. Then she leaned back in her chair and said, "Thank you for trusting me. And just so you know, your work speaks louder than their drama. You're not going anywhere." Relief washed over me. For the first time in weeks, I exhaled. But the attacks didn't stop. Brandon started using burner numbers to send me messages. "Hope you're happy with yourself. You'll die alone in that sterile condo of yours. Mom and Dad only ever pretended to like you. You were just a walking paycheck. Each message was more unhinged than the last. Eventually, I stopped reading them. I forwarded everything to Natalie, then I filed a restraining order. But what really sealed it? What broke whatever guilt I had left? A voicemail from my mom, her voice cold, calculated. You may have won this little war, Madeline, but you've lost something far greater. You've lost us. For a second, I almost cried, but then I remembered what us had meant my entire life. Us meant them using me. Us meant me sacrificing, them taking. Us meant silence in exchange for proximity. Us meant abandonment wrapped in tradition. So yes, I lost, and I gained myself. I gained peace. I gained clarity. I gained a future that wasn't shackled to people who would sell my name for a down payment. I started seeing a therapist, Dr. Molina, who specialized in family trauma. In our first session, she asked, "If a stranger treated you the way your family does, would you stay?" And for the first time in my life, I said out loud, "No, I wouldn't." That sentence changed everything. I started healing. I started living. I hadn't spoken to Aunt Irene in nearly a decade. Growing up, she was the family outlier, Greg's older sister who never married, never had kids, and always seemed to ruffle feathers at family events. I used to think she was bitter, cold, distant, but now I wondered if she had simply gotten out. One afternoon, as I was sifting through legal emails, I saw a message from a Gmail address I didn't recognize. Subject: You were never the crazy one. It was from her. Madeline, I've been following the fallout. I heard about the car, the posts, the lies. I'm not surprised, but I am proud of you. The message stopped me cold. I called her that night. She picked up on the first ring. "Hi, sweetheart," she said like we'd spoken yesterday. "You holding up?" We talked for 3 hours. Turns out, Aunt Irene had been excommunicated from the Carter clan 20 years ago when she refused to sign a loan for Greg. He'd wanted to buy a second dealership, but his credit was a mess. Irene, a CPA, took one look at his books and said no. He told everyone I was jealous, she said with a dry laugh, that I didn't want to see him succeed. Your mom called me a bitter old hag. I haven't had a Christmas card since. My jaw clenched. This wasn't new. This wasn't just me. This was a pattern, she continued, and you. You were always the scapegoat. They put everything on your shoulders. You made them feel small, Maddie. Not because you were mean, but because you were better than them. I felt a lump in my throat. I'm not better, I whispered. Yes, you are. Not richer, not smarter, just kinder, straighter, more honest, and in this family, that's a threat. Irene invited me to dinner at her place the following week. Her home was modest but cozy, filled with art, plants, and no trace of the Carter obsession with image. Over pasta and red wine, she told me the things no one else ever dared to say. Your dad, he's been lying since he could talk. He cheated his way through college. Elaine was his perfect match, calculating, vain, obsessed with appearance. Brandon was the golden child because he never questioned them. But you were the mirror. You reflected everything they didn't want to see. It was the first time anyone had validated what I'd always felt. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't dramatic. I was awake. And now that I was finally choosing myself, the entire machine was collapsing. Do you regret walking away? I asked her. She smiled. I regret waiting so long to do it. That night, I drove home in tears, but not from sadness, from relief. I wasn't alone anymore. The next few weeks, I noticed a shift. The more I reclaimed my voice, the more other people started reaching out. My cousin Rachel messaged me on Facebook. I saw what Brandon posted. I didn't believe it. I know how this family works. If you ever want to talk, I'm here. A former babysitter sent a handwritten note. You were always the one taking care of everyone. I'm glad you're taking care of yourself now. Even my high school English teacher emailed. Saw your name floating around. Just wanted to say, you always had backbone, even back then. Every message was a brick in the new foundation I was building. But the most shocking message came in late spring. It was from Brandon. A single text. From a new number. They're turning on me now. Said I have to pay for everything myself. You were right. I didn't see it before. I do now. I stared at the message for a long time. No apology, no accountability. Just recognition. But maybe that was a start. I didn't reply. Because healing doesn't require permission. And forgiveness isn't an invitation back into the chaos. Instead, I forwarded the message to Natalie, and then I turned off my phone. I sat in my apartment, my space, my peace, and lit a candle. One of the cheap ones from Target. It smelled like vanilla and independence. And I thought, maybe the best kind of family is the one you build for yourself. The repossession didn't happen quietly. Apparently, Brandon had parked the BMW right in front of Paradise Valley Mall, probably to flex. And that's exactly where the tow truck pulled up. Sirens off, papers ready. Cameras rolling. It was a sunny Friday afternoon. Brandon was coming out of a smoothie place with a date when they hooked the car. He ran up yelling, demanding answers, insisting it was a mistake. The agent calmly explained the paperwork. Loan default. Signature fraud. Your co-signer's name has been removed. Brandon's face drained of color. Madeline did this, he shouted. His voice echoed across the lot. People stopped and stared. His date awkwardly backed away. Someone filmed it, of course. By sunset, the video was all over local social media. A TikTok titled, "Rich Kid Loses It After His Sister Takes the Car Back," had 500,000 views, and me. I was home eating frozen pizza in sweatpants when my phone started blowing up. Not from family, those were all blocked. From friends. From coworkers. From my lawyer. "You need to see this," Natalie said, barely suppressing a grin. I watched the video once. Then again, I didn't feel triumphant. I felt still. Like I'd finally stepped out of a storm that had raged around me my whole life. My parents didn't call me that day. Or the next. Instead, they sent Natalie a letter through their new attorney. It was filled with legal threats and pitiful language. Family misunderstanding. Media embarrassment. Damage to reputation. But Natalie shut it down. No contact. She reminded them. Court enforced. They didn't respond after that. Brandon, though. He tried once more. This time, a DM on LinkedIn's. "Congratulations, you got your piece. Hope it's worth all the bridges you burned." I didn't reply. Some bridges aren't meant to be crossed again. Weeks passed. The world didn't end. My job was steady. My home felt safer. I slept through the night. Then came the final email from the bank. "Ms. Carter, your fraud report has been fully processed. You bear no legal or financial responsibility. The repossession has been finalized." It was over. Official. Legal. Done. I closed the laptop, leaned back, and let myself feel it. Not pride, not victory. Freedom. People think cutting off family is this loud, dramatic thing. But for me, it was quiet, soft. A gentle unhooking of something that had been strangling me for years. I didn't make an announcement. I didn't post about it. I didn't call anyone to explain. I just stopped. Stopped responding. Stopped apologizing. Stopped hoping they'd change. I changed instead. I swapped the holidays filled with fake smiles for ones spent with friends who knew my story and loved me anyway. I built new traditions. I made peppermint bark with my neighbor's kids. I hosted a friends mess dinner where no one asked me for money. And when Mother's Day rolled around, I didn't stand in the card aisle feeling like a fraud. I donated to a women's shelter instead. I still had hard days. I still woke up with guilt like a phantom pain. I still wondered if I was heartless for walking away. But therapy helped. Journaling, time helped. So did work. With the emotional chaos behind me, I poured into my career. My team noticed. My boss noticed. I got promoted within months, director of finance. My raise, more than enough to cover the cost of that BMW. If I'd been the one paying for it. But I wasn't. Because for the first time in my life, I wasn't footing the bill for someone else's mistakes. I was investing in my own future. And I wasn't alone. Aunt Irene became a regular Sunday dinner guest. My friend Chelsea helped me start a podcast called Inherited Guilt, where we shared stories of toxic family cycles and how to break them. Strangers wrote in, thanking me for telling the truth. Turns out, I wasn't the only one. Turns out, family isn't who you're born to. It's who stands with you when the lies fall apart. And sometimes, choosing peace over blood is the bravest thing you'll ever do. It took a forged signature and a repossessed car to teach me something I should have known all along. Love is not debt, family is not ownership, and blood is not a lifetime contract. For years, I confused loyalty with submission. I thought being the good daughter meant absorbing every insult, every guilt trip, every bill. I thought if I just kept giving, maybe, they'd love me the way I needed. But here's what I've learned: you don't have to earn love. You don't have to destroy yourself to keep the peace. You don't have to finance someone else's comfort at the cost of your soul. Walking away wasn't easy. It hurt in places I didn't even know existed, but staying would have killed the last pieces of me, still fighting to breathe. So if you're watching this, if your story looks anything like mine, this is your permission slip. To say no, to change the locks, to stop apologizing for protecting your peace. You are not selfish. You are not dramatic. You are not wrong for wanting more. You're just finally learning to choose yourself. And that's not betrayal. That's survival. So go ahead, drop a comment if this hit home. Share it with someone who needs that push. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories that remind you you're not alone. And it's not too late, because you deserve a life that feels like yours. All of it. No invoice required.